Hey Carholics! You know the drill. When you think Ford history, you think Mustang. You think Thunderbird. You think the untouchable F-150. Models that rack up 150 million sales. But let me ask you this. What if I told you the foundation of America's Big Three wasn't built on those legends? What if Ford's survival after World War II actually hinged on a few cars so dull, their names were just standard? We're digging deep today into the Ford cars and trucks that get zero love, that are criminally cheap on the secondhand market, but whose impact is so massive, they should be in the history books. These are the 4 underappreciated Ford classics that changed everything. Let's roll. Let's start with an icon, but we're going way, way back. The F-Series pickup. It's been the best-selling vehicle in America for nearly half a century. But where did it all begin? The first-gen F-Series, running from 48 to 52, arrived right as America was pivoting back from wartime production. It had those classic, rounded fenders and that pointed nose, a truck that was genuinely revolutionary. Ford scrapped the pre-war Model 50 and invested a cool $1 million, that's over $13 million today, just to redesign the cab. Why? They knew post-war America wanted comfort. They wanted a cab that was taller, wider, quieter, and could actually fit 3 guys side by side. They branded the line bonus built, basically telling you, you're getting more than you paid for. The surprising insight? These trucks weren't one size fits all. The designations, F1 through F8, ranged from a half-ton consumer truck to a 3-ton commercial beast aimed right at international harvester. They were perfectly segmented. And here's the kicker. The truck that became the legendary F100? It was just the second generation's way of renaming the original F1 through F4. And you can still find an absolutely beautiful first-gen F-Series truck for less than 10 grand. It's a foundational piece of American industry, and it's criminally undervalued. Next up is a car with zero personality in its name, but a massive historical footprint, the 1949 Ford. Seriously, they called the base model the Standard. But here's the secret. This dull-named car saved the entire company. After the war, Ford desperately needed a hit. So they unveiled the 49 model in 1948 at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, a truly radical redesign, what Newsweek called Ford's biggest change since the Model A. This car ditched the old bulbous fenders and brought in a sleek, slab-sided design that looked like the future. It was so stylish, it won a Fashion Academy Award. Yes, a Ford sedan won a fashion award. And it worked. Ford sold over 1 million cars that year. The company itself admits this model kept them afloat during those precarious post-war years. The cultural analysis? This car is a foundational piece of design and corporate history. Yet, it gets zero respect today. Classic.com data shows dozens of these cars changing hands in the last 5 years, with many going for under $10,000. The car that kept Henry's company alive is barely an afterthought to collectors. That, my friends, is a shocking disparity. Now for the car that got there first and then got completely eclipsed, the Ford Ranchero. In 1957, when Ford introduced this coupe/pickup hybrid, the Huda, it was largely an Australian phenomenon. Hudson and Studebaker had played with the idea decades earlier, but Ford brought the concept to the American mainstream. And they were first. Sales started strong, but then the rival came. When the Chevy El Camino dropped in '59, the Ranchero, surprisingly, actually saw sales surge by 50%. It's like the competition legitimized the segment. But here's the ultimate tragedy. The Ranchero hung around until '79, but it was always playing second fiddle. Chevy's El Camino, which arrived 2 years later, lasted until '87. The financial betrayal? History has favored the General Motors car. Rancheros today average around $22,500 on the secondhand market. The typical El Camino? Almost $31,000. It's a perfect example of how being the pioneer doesn't always translate into a lasting legacy or better resale value. The Ranchero walked so the El Camino could run off with the gold. Finally, the most important forgotten Ford, the Falcon. If you ask people for Ford's greatest hits, the Falcon doesn't even make the top 20. And that is an automotive injustice. When the compact Falcon arrived in 1960, it marked the start of a whole new era. It was unassuming, available with a small inline-six, and it was a hit. They cranked out over 1 million Falcons in the first 2 years alone. But here's the bombshell, and the part collectors ignore. Ford used the modest, economical Falcon as the foundation to build the legendary Mustang. The Mustang was essentially the Falcon's kid, yet the kid completely overshadowed the parent almost instantly. The Mustang sold 681,000 units in '65 alone. The Falcon's total production for both '64 and '65 combined was 250,000 less than that. The Falcon was dropped in the US after 1970, but it's still one of the most significant cars in American history. It birthed the pony car. And what's the resale reality? Early Mustangs from '64 and '65 regularly fetch 50 grand or more. The Falcon, the car that made it possible, averages about 24,000. That's a massive gap for a car with that much historical weight. So, the next time you see one of these forgotten Fords, a cheap first-gen F-Series, a sleek '49 sedan, an overlooked Ranchero, or especially the Falcon, remember this. These aren't just dry facts. These are the unsung heroes whose struggles and surprising successes laid the groundwork for the Blue Oval Empire. They weren't the glamorous winners, but they were the crucial foundations. And in the world of car collecting, their low values mean they're the biggest sleeper deals in history. What are you thinking? Which of these forgotten Fords is going straight onto your wish list? Drop your comment down below. If you love digging deep into automotive history and uncovering these secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another Carholic Insight. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.